Tim Drake Urban Legends issue 6 has left some people confused, as has the reporting surrounding it. Mess and confusion are where I live. Let's talk about why some people are convinced that some are jumping the gun on labeling Tim Drake's sexuality. It's time to talk about Robin at the time of this recording, unless they decide to finally give him another call sign or whatever they're doing. It has not been sorted out yet. Greetings, comic lovers, and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old to history to anecdotes, truly wherever our whims take us. Tim Drake has been the talk of the DC Comics world for a little bit now. Time of recording. That's just gonna be what we say all this video. This is because of what people are calling many things: a change, a reveal, a retcon, an update. It really depends who you're talking to. This is surrounding his sexuality, and a story which we reviewed in detail alongside the history of Tim Drake in a previous video. So if you want context for this, watch that, because this is very much a follow-up. So the issues where this happened were Batman Urban Legends issues 4 to 6. And at the end of 6, there are promises that there'd be more to come in issue 10. Against a not very fleshed out kidnapping and cult backdrop, Tim Drake questioned what he wanted out of life, and both a character study and meta-style musing of just who is Tim Drake and where does he belong in the DC universe. Slowly throughout the issue, or what would have been slowly if they had more time, he comes to realize that he has feelings for his friend Bernard Dowd that seem to be bordering on romantic. Bernard Dowd is a deep cut back to the Robin solo series that ran from 1993 to 2009. Bernard had been a supporting character who appeared for a bit in between issues 121 to 140. Now, as for Tim's relationship with Stephanie Brown, he broke up with her off panel. Why? Reasons. Even in this issue, he says he doesn't know. So some fans felt that this pairing was done dirty, to paraphrase. Now, at the end of issue 6, Tim accepts a date invitation from Bernard, and the internet was off, although they had been off before, as someone predicted the outcome from issue 4. And some saw it as the culmination of years of coding, while others felt it was pandering, and others felt it was a marketing scheme. This issue got a second printing, so some felt that this lends credence to the idea that this was an attempt to drive sales. However, many angles were taken when reporting about this, and there have been articles upon articles, and videos upon videos, and tweets upon tweets, and just a lot, a cascade. And I now have even more quotes, and this excites me, for if you've been here a while, you know that I've never met a quote that I didn't want to read. There is more out there from the author, and for some, it's made them perplexed, or even concerned, and many haven't heard them at all, because as mentioned, there's been a lot, so many things have been lost, like official statements from DC or creators. They've kind of been lost under people talking about it. I'm always fascinated by trying to bring as many details and stuff forward as possible. I'm Sasha, and I'm here to read quotes, and provide more context, hopefully, or just more information. The more you know. Stories like comics are ever evolving, growing, changing. It's why I always say that it's a journey. So join me on this journey. Like, comment, subscribe. Tim time. Now, we covered the myriad of reactions in the last video on this topic in detail, so this video is going to focus on the confusion specifically surrounding the labeling of Tim's sexuality. Not whether people like the issue or the change slash reaction slash retcon slash revelation slash reveal. Now, when this first started being reported, you would tend to see a couple of headlines. Either Robin comes out as gay or Robin comes out as bisexual, to paraphrase. Now, setting aside the confusion from those who reacted not knowing which Robin it was, for there is many a Robin to choose from, there were some who were confused as to whether or not this had been a coming out or Tim deciding to explore. Though as mentioned in the past video, discussions on coming out are things that change. There's conversations and there can be differences of opinion from a variety of quarters, age, region, a bunch of things. So some do view coming out as a process, both to other people and to oneself, and the story demonstrated that. However, there were some who wanted clarification and a direct label. It can be a very personal thing and there are differing opinions surrounding it. Now, DC seemed to attempt to put out some clarification, for there was an article that ran on their website discussing Tim Drake, the coding of Robins, and it had the statement, yes, Tim Drake dates boys. So many then felt that the bisexual label was correct, and that was also what many who felt there had been coding felt it was alluding to, and that everything was for all intents and purposes clear, even if it hadn't been explicitly stated on panel, and that potentially that was what was coming in issue 10. However, the author of this story, Meghan Fitzmartin, has claimed her intent was on the idea of exploration and experimentation. Quote time, and more context for that it's the missing piece statement. On writing Tim, Fitzmartin stated, when Dave Wheelgauze, my editor for Batman Urban Legends, reached out about doing another Tim story, I was thrilled. We talked about where Tim Drake has been versus where he was at the time, and came to the conclusion that it needed to be a story about identity and discovery. What was next for Boy Wonder? On Tim's sexuality, Fitzmartin had this to say: there's been a bunch of conversations about whether or not he's been queer coded throughout time, and this just felt like the piece that was missing in order to understand Tim Drake's story better. I think that for Tim, he's still figuring it out, like, oh, this is something that I didn't expect and would like to investigate more because that's who he is as a person. People exist who are questioning and queer and in various states of understanding their own sexuality. I want people who maybe don't have access to this type of content to feel seen and feel heard. And I also want those who maybe have never knowingly met a queer person before to see that Tim Drake exists. So there are many things one can take from this statement. One thing I did see was people feeling that this meant that she hadn't actually written it for fans of Tim Drake or of comics, and that rubbed some the wrong way. Though some were all for what her intent appears appears to be, or at least what she's stating it was. So there you go. That's where the author is coming from. Now, because of this, some feel that the gun is being jumped when it comes to labeling Tim, and that may be doing a disservice to the story, or even the messaging and intent and significance that could have for a variety of people. Others feel that the label being applied is a foregone conclusion, as again, it's apparently something that has been discussed for years. More quotes. I have more quotes. Former Robin artist Freddie Williams II stated, "Wow, I drew a lot of Tim back 2006-2008. The writers and I spoke openly about Tim's bisexuality to each other and on panels at cons. I feel silly to admit this, but I just assumed it was already canon. I love Tim. He's awesome." Now, I've seen some contest the idea of discussions at cons, for some feel that Pixar didn't happen. Where is this footage? If this had happened, the footage would be everywhere, plastered all across this conversation. Maybe it is out there. I've never seen it, but if you have, share it. Sharing is caring. Now, there is also a sentiment that if DC were to have Tim go through a storyline where its conclusions led him to feel, for example, that no, he was actually heterosexual or more attracted to women, it would be met with extreme backlash and accusations of queer baiting. So some feel at this point that DC has to have Tim outright state how he identifies, or that there's going to be backlash and disappointment. While others feel that it's a story, and by leaving it open, it allows for more people to interpret it different ways and makes it have a wider reach. While others just feel that stories are stories and they should be told the way that the company or the authors or creators want them to be told. All of this is, of course, hypothetical time of recording. We only have the 3 issues right now. We have to see how the story unfolds and how this plays out for Tim in the long run. However, some feel now that DC is trying to dance around it, leave too many doors open. Though Fitzmartin stated she had full support of DC Editorial and more. "I fully sat on the floor of my apartment for a solid 2 minutes in happiness as it sunk in. Ultimately, this wouldn't have happened without champions at DC like Dave and James Tynion IV, and I hope it is as meaningful for others as it has been for me." Some even feel put off by quotes like those above because they feel that it reaffirms playing with headcanons and less on the idea of actually trying to focus on Tim as a character. And of course, some felt that they would relate to Tim no matter what, for they identify with different aspects of him. His tenacity, his keen detective and observation skills, his quest to carve out his own space himself, and determination to never give up, which are traits that people hope he will manifest no matter what. Some felt that none of this deals with ultimately what is the DC conundrum surrounding Tim, what to do with him post Damian Wayne. And so some feel this move reeks more of desperation than inspiration. Oh well, we don't know what to do with Tim, and this is an idea that people have floated around, so let's try that. And some feel regardless of intent, what this has become has moved beyond a Tim exploring his sexuality story into something many have stakes in for a variety of reasons. So now it's going to be highly scrutinized no matter what happens, and as a result has been placed in the position to potentially backfire. There's high unintentional backfire stakes. So yeah, people are still talking about Tim. Now some have very firmly formed opinions on this, but some are still sorting out how they feel. I like tracking these things and seeing how they're evolving, how it started, how it's going in the story, behind the scenes, reactions, all the things. I wanted to highlight this because when we did our last video, in the comments I saw that some people were missing some of the context for those who were saying that they felt that the labeling was premature, and also for those who felt that that would be a good story to have depicted. A lot of people are just trying to have conversations about this. Yes, there is malice and lots of trolling out there, but there's also genuineness and people seeking to have real connections with each other. So those were some quotes and the author's feelings for those who care / are curious about things like that. Do these statements change anything for you? Do you feel that people are jumping the gun as to labeling Tim? Or do you feel that given the state of things, and if the idea is to make more visible and active LGBTQ+ characters, a clear label should be or needs to be presented? Is it once more a question of narrative versus reality versus impact? So would something work better for the narrative, for the impact, or for something else? It really depends on what one wants out of the story, or also how one enjoys and interprets entertainment. Some feel that these stories need to be, when they're under too much scrutiny, they can't breathe, and hence they lose the chance to have as much impact as they could, for they don't get a chance to play out however the intent is. And also, stories need space to be both good and bad. There's still many thoughts out there and I'd like to hear them. Discussion time. Feed me. Comments feed me. Now I'm gonna go read the world's finest issue where Superman and Batman make Jimmy and Robin dig their own graves. Or do they? Leave your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this time out of your day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.